In the United States, voting has always been at the heart of democracy, but today the question of how Americans cast their ballots is once again dominating headlines. President Trump's recent announcement of a nationwide voter ID requirement has reignited one of the country's most heated debates: how to balance election security with fair access to the polls. On September 1, 2025, the president declared that every voter in every election will be required to present identification, with what he called no exceptions. The order would also eliminate most mail-in voting, limiting it only to members of the military serving overseas and people facing severe medical conditions. Supporters say this plan is a necessary step to restore trust in elections, but critics warn it could create serious barriers for millions of eligible voters. Those who back the policy argue that showing identification is a simple and routine part of American life. People show ID to board a plane, buy alcohol, check into hotels, or even pick up certain prescriptions. From their perspective, presenting an ID to vote is not only reasonable, it is essential for preventing fraud. Advocates say that even if proven voter fraud is rare, many Americans have lost confidence in the system, and stricter requirements could help reassure the public that every ballot cast is legitimate. This, they believe, would strengthen the foundation of American democracy at a time when trust in institutions is declining. But opponents of the mandate argue that the costs are far greater than the benefits. Research shows that up to 11% of eligible voters, about 25 million people, lack a government-issued photo ID. This population is not evenly distributed. Seniors, low-income families, rural residents, and people of color are all disproportionately affected. For them, obtaining an ID is not always as simple as it sounds. It can require long travel distances, missing work, paying fees, and navigating complex paperwork. Critics warn that these hurdles could discourage participation and silence voices that already face obstacles in the democratic process. They also point to the restriction of mail-in voting, which has become an essential option for working parents, people with disabilities, and those living far from polling locations. Limiting absentee ballots to only a narrow group, they argue, is likely to suppress turnout in communities that already struggle with access. Another layer of controversy is legal. The United States Constitution gives states broad authority to regulate their own elections, and many legal experts predict that this executive order will face immediate challenges in federal courts. Some state officials have already signaled their opposition, arguing that Washington does not have the power to dictate voting procedures in such sweeping terms. The clash between federal authority and state control could set the stage for a prolonged legal battle, with outcomes that may shape election law for decades. At its core, the debate is about two competing visions of democracy. One side emphasizes security and the need to guarantee the legitimacy of every ballot. The other stresses accessibility and the principle that voting should be as easy and inclusive as possible. Both values, security and access, are important, but striking the right balance has proven incredibly difficult in a country as diverse and divided as the United States. The new voter ID order highlights just how deeply Americans disagree about what it means to safeguard democracy. As the order heads for courtrooms and Congress, one thing is certain: the fight is far from over. The coming months will determine whether this mandate becomes the law of the land or is struck down as unconstitutional overreach. And beyond the legal battles lies a larger question: what kind of democracy do Americans want to build for the future? For millions of voters, the answer to that question will shape not just how they cast their ballots, but whether they can cast them at all.